All right. Well, thanks for everyone attending today. You're going to hear an occasional beep as people join. There's a little beep noise. There's not much we can do about that, but we will go from there. Like Tom was saying, if you have any questions, do a chat with Cece. I'm going to be really paying attention to what's going on and my presentation. I'm not really going to be following that window. So if she sees anything that it makes sense to break in, we'll go from there. For those who don't know me, I'll give you a little bit of background. Like Tom said, my name's Derek Christian. I own a cleaning company called My Maid Service. We have 2 locations here in Cincinnati, doing about $1.2 million in revenue, and then we have 2 more locations in Dallas that my brother runs. They're not franchised. They're both owned by the Christian brothers. Before coming to My Maid Service, I used to work for Procter & Gamble, which is where I got most of my sales and marketing background. I worked in a role with them called market strategy and planning, which basically means I determined what products we sold in what market and at what price we were going to sell them. So I'm going to run you through some of the things I learned there and how we've applied them to the residential cleaning industry. We've been doing it about 5 years now since I left Procter & Gamble, 5 years in Cincinnati and 4 years in Dallas, and we're up to cleaning about 100 homes a day between the 4 locations. So it seems to have worked well for us. I don't claim to know everything. All I can do is tell you what's worked for us and go from there. So first thing I want to talk about is I am a strong believer in target marketing. And one of the reasons why is to understand some of the basic math of our business. If you have a biweekly customer who does $100 cleaning with you, they're going to generate about $2,500 a year. And for a lot of us, that's low. I know lots of people who charge $120 and $130. So for the sake of simple math, I'm saying if you charge the biweekly customer $100 a visit, and assuming they took the week of Christmas off, you're going to clean them 25 times a year, so they're worth $2,500 a year to you. That means if you want to hit $250,000 in revenue, you need only 100 clients. If you want to hit $1 million in revenue, you only need to hit 400 clients. So one of the things that I think really helps in your marketing is to choose a really, really defined target. And there's a couple reasons for that we're going to go over, one of which is, of course, finding a much better market and having a smaller market to target, but also to have a better niche to hit. Why advertise to 3 million people if you only need 400 clients? You want to advertise to the smallest group of people with the most focused message that you can. It's more efficient, and it's going to be more effective. What's the best way to reach, sort of define the target market? You basically want to, like I said, pick a target market and go for them specifically. So whatever your goal is, if it's $250,000 in revenue, you want 100 clients. If it's $500,000 in revenue, you want 200. So just to kind of illustrate this, and once again, pulling from my background, I like to do an example of sort of a big company like P&G. I've listed on the screen all of the hair care brands they make. And when people look at this, sometimes they ask me, why would they make 7 different hair care brands? And the reason why is because each one hits a specific market. If you try to be all things to all people, you're nothing to anyone. For example, Pantene typically targets adult professional women. It aims for women typically in late 30s, early 40s who have a career. That's who they're aiming for. Head & Shoulders aims mostly for men suffering with dandruff. Now, it'd be perfectly easy for Procter & Gamble to introduce Pantene for dandruff sufferers. But all of a sudden, Pantene suddenly starts to mean nothing because now it's for guys with dandruff and high-end women. Aussie is aimed at 20-somethings. Infusium 23 is aimed for your natural person, maybe someone who buys sort of that apothecary trend where they go to the body shop and places like that. Herbal Essence is aimed primarily at teens. A lot of people don't realize that Procter & Gamble owns Fekkai. Fekkai is a super premium brand that sells for like $15 a bottle in places like Target. And they own Sebastian, which is a super premium brand that sells in the salon. And they do that because, once again, if you try to be everything to everyone, you're nothing to anyone. You start running ads, which if you open up the Yellow Pages or Google, in our industry you see all the time, that say things like, we do weekly, biweekly, monthly, one-time, ongoing, realtor, move-in, move-out, we've got insurance, they all sound the same. Basically, you're saying we do everything to everyone. And when you do that, like I said, we all look the same, we all sound the same, there's no differentiation. You'll hear people all the time talk about, you need a unique selling proposition, you need a unique selling proposition, which is true. But what they always forget to mention is Unique selling proposition to whom? It's not useful to anyone if there's not a target in mind. My unique selling proposition could be that I drive a purple car, but if no one cares about it, it doesn't matter. The question is, what is your unique proposition and for what customer base? Once again, for going back to my hair care example, because most people understand it, Head & Shoulders talks about treating dandruff for men. If all of a sudden they started talking about that in Pantene, it wouldn't make sense because it's not as relevant for women. Typically, you don't see those type of issues. So that's why we're talking about target marketing, trying to hit a specific segment. So one of the questions we get a lot is how do you select your target? The first thing I've got to encourage you to do is be authentic and true to yourself and your business. Consumers are becoming very, very jaded. There is so much marketing in so many places that hit us in so many different ways that consumers are starting to push back. They're starting to know when they're getting scammed, know when people aren't being truthful with them. So the first thing is just always be authentic to yourself. If you're not a green cleaning company, don't sell yourself as a green cleaning company. If you aren't something, don't try to make yourself into it. So that's the first thing. When selecting a target, try to be authentic to yourself. Second thing is look at your current client base. Who are you already best serving? If you pulled up all of your current clients and kind of tried to figure out what they had in common, you'll probably notice some trends. You may or may not have people who live in apartments. You may have people who are retirees. You could have new parents. As you start to look at it, you're going to kind of discover there are people you already serve pretty well. The next thing I encourage you to do is pull from your own experience in your life. This goes back a little bit to the authenticity, but also it's easier to target somebody when you understand them. And instead of trying to imagine what it's like, try to pull from your experience, and this will make a little more sense when we get to the targeting point. But for example, when in your life would you have most wanted a cleaning service? When is the time when you would have paid anything to get a little bit of free time back in your life? That's the time you're going to want to pull from and talk about. Was it when a family member got sick? Was it when you first brought that dog home? Was it when you first had children? Was it when you got promoted and suddenly started working crazy hours? Those are all different target segments that you could potentially hit. And the last thing is look at something that no one else is targeting. If everyone else is saying the same thing to the same segment, you probably don't want to be there. For example, some people do a little bit of targeting in our industry. You'll see a lot of targeted marketing towards dual income working parents. It's a perfectly legitimate segment to go after, but first of all, it's really broad. Dual income working parents, okay, that's probably 60% of the people in Cincinnati. Secondly, because everyone else is going for it, it's hard to stand out. So I also encourage people to try to look at a segment different other people aren't looking at. Okay? When you do that, you're going to want to profile your customer. And I always say she, and there's a couple reasons for this. A, I come from Procter & Gamble, and 90% of what Procter sold was aimed at females. And also, in my experience in residential cleaning, the wife normally hires us, and the husband normally fires us. So normally we sell to the wife. There are exceptions, but when customer profiling, there's a few questions you basically want to go through. Who is she? What are her concerns? Where else does she spend her money? And where does she get her information from? Oops, I went a little too fast on that. These are going to answer a couple different questions for you, and we're going to run you through sort of that who, what, where. But basically the question is, who are you targeting? What's the message you're going to give her? And where are you going to reach her and how? Okay? This makes a little more sense as we jump into the profile. So for the sake of our example, I've decided I want to profile one very specific segment, which is new parents. And there's a couple reasons for this. One of which is in marketing, there's a term called point of entry marketing. And the basic idea is there is a time in your life where for the first time ever you need a service or a product. For example, for guys, it's when they turn 13 and need to shave for the first time. With diapers, it's when you have a new baby and buy diapers for the first time. Marketers love this because this is the one time in your life where you have no preconceived notion. You've never used the service before, you've never bought the product before, and you're picking one for the first time. A lot of people decide to use a cleaning service for the first time when they're new parents. They've never thought they needed one before. And what's great about it and why point of entry marketing is exciting is because once someone selects that first brand or that first service or product, they normally stick with it unless something happens. So if you decide you're going to put your baby in Pampers diapers, you're probably going to keep using Pampers for the next 2 kids unless something goes wrong, like the baby gets a rash or something like that. Same thing with a cleaning service. If someone selects a cleaning service for the first time in their life and they pick a professional service, they are probably going to stick with it. If, on the other hand, they pick an individual cleaner and they have a good result, they're probably going to stick with individual cleaners. So I like to think of what I call point of entry. When are people for the first time ever entering this market? Because sort of like we like to hire cleaners who haven't been trained by other cleaning companies so we don't have to train them, I like to hire customers who haven't used other cleaning services because I don't have to spend a lot of time explaining how we're different, how we do things different. I like people where I can shape their impressions from the get-go. So I like new parents because it's point of entry marketing. So I'm going to profile my new parents. And this is easy for me because I have a 5-year-old and, okay, I guess I'll make the announcement to the world. My wife is pregnant with our second, so I'm right in the middle of this right now. And that's where, as I talk about, be authentic and pull from your own experience. This is really easy for me to profile this person because this is me. I just have to kind of sit down and think about me, my friends, what are we like, where are we doing, what are we talking about. So typically they're married, 25 to 35 years of age. Probably live in a family-friendly area with good school district because normally that's when people start moving. In my area, it's going to be places like Blue Ash, Mason, the suburbs typically, although that does vary in some areas. Both parents are probably working, not always. There are exceptions to that rule, but here in my area, both parents are probably working. They're in desperate need of more time and relaxation. For the first time in their life has completely gone out of their control, and they're desperately seeking some sort of balance back. Once again, I'm pulling from my own experience here, but I actually didn't use a cleaning service until we had a child. We used to clean our own house, and my wife and I used to actually speak rather disparagingly of the lazy people who would have a cleaning service. Well, why can't you just clean your own house? It's not that hard. Then we had a child, and we would do just about anything and pay just about anything to get 2 or 3 hours of our time back. That's sort of the next topic. Life became a lot more complex, and they have very little me time. So that's why they need you so desperately. New parents are also very nervous, bordering on paranoid and neurotic about the health and well-being of their child. There are exceptions to this, but in general, new parents, these little human lives that you're suddenly responsible for don't come with an instruction manual. So normally they're very nervous and paranoid, and they're probably seeking information anywhere they can to find it. So what I kind of ran you through was a profile of a new parent. And we would do this with Procter & Gamble with every product we would do. So say, for example, we were introducing Herbal Essence Hair Care. We would sit around a room and say, her name's Beth. She's probably 16 years old. She spends a lot of time on Facebook, hangs out at the mall, and we would profile someone. I've just done the same thing with my customer I'm thinking about for residential cleaning, which is your first-time new parent. Once again, I'm aiming for new parents here. I don't want second and third kids. I want the person who's never thought they needed a cleaning service before, never understood why people always complained about not having free time. Okay. Next question is sort of what are her concerns. Put yourself in the mind of this new parent, and when picking a cleaning service or anything in their home, what's the primary concerns in their life? Once again, very paranoid about health. What chemicals is the child being exposed to? Security. Who's coming into my house? What background check have you run on this person? You know, I used to not be too concerned about it, but all of a sudden, oh my gosh, who's coming into my house? What germs do I need to worry about? This kid is sick all the darn time. I'm missing so much work because of that. How can you possibly help me so that this kid isn't constantly sick? They're concerned about getting back some of their free time. They're attempting to get some type of balance in their life. And my favorite one is nap time is a precious thing. Don't wake the baby, because nap time is the only time of day where life gets calm and I can actually do something for my own. Now, normally when I would do this, I would go a lot more in depth, but I'm trying to give you guys sort of a sample. So the first thing we did is the who. We went through that profile, 25-year-old, where they live, what's going on in their life, what are they concerned about. And the next thing I'm kind of curious about is where else does she spend her money? Probably taking that newborn into daycare. Probably going to the pediatrician quite a bit because of those ear infections, and obviously before that was going to the OBGYN. Going to Babies R Us and Once Upon a Child. If they're ultra green clients, they're probably using the diaper delivery service. Probably going to other places to do activities. The little gym, Gymboree, Mommy Fit classes. Here in Cincinnati, the new trend is language immersion classes for babies. Other services that help them get back free time, dry cleaners, dream dinners, landscapers to mow the yard. Once again, all those things they used to do themselves on weekends, they suddenly don't have time for and they're attempting to outsource. Oops. I'm going to go back just a second so you guys can. And the reason why we do this is, and we'll get to this on the last slide, is you want to kind of get in this customer's mindset of where they're going. And the other thing I forgot, and I probably should have put in here, is where are they getting their information? They're probably getting information from their friends, from the internet. They're probably reading parenting magazines. They're going to mommy blogs. So not only where do they spend their money, but where do they get their information? They're probably watching shows on television. What type of places are they going? Are they listening to radio programs? If so, which ones? I know I used to find myself up a lot of strange hours at 2 in the morning holding the baby, watching really bad cable television. So think about where they're going and where they're getting their information. And I don't know why I just realized that slide got dropped, but there's supposed to be another slide that says where are they getting their information. And nowadays a lot of it's online. Facebook, baby groups, mommy blogs, things like that. So once you kind of have a segment, now that you've profiled them, I want you to step back and think about the customer a little bit. Because to provide authentic and truly differentiated service, you want to think a little bit about what can you do for this customer. So for example, if you're going to target these new parents, make sure your people who are doing your cleaning are trained on child safety locks. Nothing upsets my clients more than when we break the lock on the cabinet door because they don't know how to work it, that we know how to use the gates. And heaven forbid, if you take one of those child safety covers off of the plug to plug the vacuum in, put it back, because if you don't, you tried to kill their baby. Remember, this is the paranoid new parent we're aiming for. So these are things that you have to think about to customize your service for them. Make sure your people are trained on proper chemical placement. Once again, new babies in the house. Nothing's going to freak a parent out more than if you leave that caddy full of chemicals on the floor next to their child. So if you're aiming for this new segment, you've got to train your people and think through all the special concerns people are going to have about new babies in the house. You're going to want to think about maybe doing green or chemical-free cleaning, especially on the floors. The newborn babies crawl